We got some really good ones. Here's one from Dylan. It's about one team, but I think we can actually make it about a couple of different programs because it's going to be true for somebody this year. We just have to figure out who. So here's Dylan's question. Hey, guys. Ohio State has received lots of love and attention this offseason, as they should with the weapons they have on their offense and the strong players in their secondary. Their line of scrimmage on both sides lost a lot, though, and there are still fairly big question marks at quarterback and running back. And while that has been talked about minimally, everybody in the media seems to have the mindset of, well, it's Ohio State. They'll find a way. They always do. But what if they don't? What if a couple of those weaknesses don't work themselves out? I see losses to Texas and Penn State pretty easily if they can take advantage of that. If the line of scrimmage on both sides aren't strong, I wouldn't feel good about them beating Michigan. And before you get to games like Illinois and at Washington, that could already be 9-3 and missing the CFP. Would I bet on the Buckeyes to go 9-3 or 8-4? Maybe, maybe not. But it's more possible this year than it has been a long time, and I haven't seen anyone really acknowledge that that's even the possibility. So what if they do? How does the Ohio State and college football world react? And more importantly, what does the Ryan Day discussion become? This is a great question because we can apply this to Ohio State, to Texas, to Georgia, to Alabama.
The question, I guess, in theory, should just be, is assuming teams are going to be okay a practice that you should continue to do. Like it used to be easy. Like Ohio State, Texas, Georgia lost 20 players from their team the year before. Oh, wait, they've got 4 years of top 5 classes to fall back on. It's going to be fine. Where the question goes sideways to me, though, and River, you can throw this up, and I know that he mentioned a few of the games, but if you assume that Ohio State goes, not the question, River, put the schedule up. Sorry, I misspoke. Penn State and Texas, like if you assume that they go 0-2 in that, because even a weak Ohio State team is going to be in those games. Mm-hmm. Who else are they going to really lose to outside of Michigan? And if Michigan,
at Washington, at Illinois, at Michigan, those are all possible losses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm there yet. But yeah, like so, let's just suspend reality here and just say they are 8-4. That would be the single worst Ohio State season of my adult life, outside of the one where they were penalized with half their teams.
Yeah, the 6-6 one after they had to fire Tressel doesn't count.
Yeah, and they haven't lost 4 games since 2004, I think. So like.
I don't see it. Maybe 9-3, but that's still a freak out if it's 9-3.
But like, if it's 9-3 and one of the losses is Michigan, then that is a freak out, right?
Yes,
that is a freak out.
If one of the losses is Michigan, period, it's a freak out.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the other question that I'm very curious, because Ohio State is coming off of a national title. Like, if he loses to Michigan again, like. It's not nearly as hot as it was last year, right? Like he is like, and that's part of the reason why I think they're going to beat Michigan. I think that now the mental burden of the system and the fact that like he isn't in hot water and that he isn't like staying up all night every night trying to figure out a way to beat them takes the pressure off in a way that they can just play their own game of football without being.
I think they'll probably just throw it to number 4 more often too.
So like I actually am more confident that Ohio, maybe not, maybe this is stupid because I thought for sure that they were going to win. Though I do remember last year telling you, hey, Michigan is a mental thing. This could happen. And then it ended up happening. If the mental thing still exists, it certainly could happen again. But like this is the 1 year out of the last 4, that goes toe to toe, at least with last year, like my confidence that they'll win that one this year. Although it is on the road. And if Bryce Underwood's awesome and they've got better lines of scrimmage, that's the case. But like if you go look at Ohio State's 2 deep, it's all a bunch of high-end top 100 players replacing those players at those positions. So like in theory, it could, but the real question here is how often are teams like Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, and Alabama going to suffer 4 lost seasons? Are they going to go from 2004 to 2025 again? Or are there going to be 4 lost seasons sprinkled in at the major powerhouse conferences more than once every 20 years?
I think if the schedules get harder, because we've talked about what happens if...
I'm pro soft games, though. You know that.
We know that. We had that argument earlier this week. But no, if the schedules get tougher and you get to the point where you've got power conference teams playing 11 power conference games, I do think those 8-4 seasons will become more frequent. But if the schedules stay pretty much the same, I think what Alabama had last year at 9-3, those are your worst case scenario seasons for these teams that recruit like this.
And the one unspoken part about this conversation that no one's having, which is 9-3 going to be good enough to still make the playoff? Which I think in some years it will be. And I don't know against that schedule if they will have enough quality wins, but what if Illinois and Wisconsin and Washington are really good this year? All of a sudden you've got 3 quality wins and you're still losing all 3 of the biggest games on your schedule, and you're still probably going to be in. Like, I don't know if people have gotten around to that, but like my projection is that there will be a 9-3 team that makes the playoff this year.
Yeah, I think the fact that there were 9-3 teams that were legitimately in the discussion, and if like SMU had dropped another game or if Indiana had dropped another game, of those teams.
In Indiana, the weirdness of the Indiana thing that we just got done talking about actually didn't happen, and they would have dropped another game. Then you would have had a 3-headed monster of 3 lost teams that would have been arguing to get in, and you would have had to flip a coin to like that. That almost happened last year. Yeah. Like, and also too, there are a lot of teams that in the SEC specifically that have schedules that are so insanely hard that even if they go 9-3 against those schedules, you can make a case it's a more impressive like strength of record than like 10-1, 10-2, or 11-1.
I think Florida, Oklahoma's
9-3. That's better than 10-2 in the Big Ten, right?
Depending on your, I guess unless you have Wisconsin's schedule, Wisconsin's schedule is the only one that.
Just break down 9-3 and look at that for Oklahoma this year means that they have to have beaten Michigan, Texas. Like they would have had to beaten really good.
Throw Oklahoma's schedule up again. Let's see that. They would have to go 9-3. So let's say they lose the 3 hardest games on their schedule, which would be Texas, Alabama, and we'll say LSU. But that also means they beat Tennessee, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Missouri, and Michigan, if that's the case.
Yeah, and that's a playoff team.
Yeah.
Now you can do this with your hands, River. They're going to the playoff if they go 9-3.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but like
throw up Ohio State's. Let's see what an Ohio State 9-3 looks like. An Ohio State 9-3 is losing to Texas, Penn State, and Michigan. So you've beaten Washington and Illinois. It would probably depend on what Washington, Illinois, and Minnesota do.
I mean, like
need to be good.
Ohio State's 9-3 is a weak 9-3. And that then we can get into another discussion about what.
Can we see Georgia's schedule? I kind of want to see Georgia's schedule on this, and we'll do Texas's too. But let's look at Georgia's schedule if we got it.
He's got it.
I want to know what a 9-3 for Georgia looks like.
He's a pro.
That's one that may be a possibility. So if Georgia goes 9-3, that's a loss to Texas,
Bama, and Florida,
to Alabama, and then like Florida or Auburn or Ole Miss.
Okay, so that means that they beat Auburn, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
Probably might, and Georgia Tech, depending on how good they are.
Yeah.
So
Georgia, if they are 9-3, Georgia is in no matter what. I guarantee it.
You think it's no matter? I think it's a maybe.
I also think that Georgia also is in the position where they're still Georgia and they get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Let's see Texas, because this one I think is a little different.
No, Texas is out probably.
So a 9-3 for Texas means you've lost to Ohio State, to Georgia, and either Florida, Texas A&M, or Oklahoma, which means you've beaten 2 of Florida, Texas A&M, or Oklahoma, but not really anybody else. Like Texas at 9-3 is not looking great.
Yeah, I mean Texas at 10-2 was not looking great last year, and Texas even at
they ended up 11-1. But yeah, if they dropped the A&M game, it would have been a little tricky.
Who did Texas lose to in the regular season last year?
Georgia.
Okay, and then they lost to Georgia again. So, but like there were thought exercises last year that if they were 10-2 with a loss to Georgia in the SEC championship game, they could be in trouble too, because they didn't have a very hard schedule. So, like anyway, getting back to the spirit of the question, though, I think that like yes, I think it's important that we start acknowledging that teams aren't bulletproof anymore. The problem is that a 9-3 season, which is an absolute disaster in Columbus, Ohio, doesn't necessarily remove them from playoff contention anymore, which is a byproduct of the system that we're in. So, but I think that it's within the realm of possibility. It's just hard to like come around to like, oh yeah, they're going to lose to Illinois or Wisconsin. Like,
it's hard to fathom, especially like Ohio State and Georgia. I think are the 2 right now that are the hardest to fathom that they would just fall off.
I think it's harder to fathom that Ohio State will fall off because their schedule isn't as demanding as some of the SEC ones we just pulled up. Like, you have to suspend reality and say they're going to go 0-3 in all of their big games which probably isn't going to happen. And even if it does, then all of a sudden they're not only losing that means they're a bad team for their standard. Like, I don't know if they're a bad team. And if you look at a lot of the players they're replacing, you're backfilling them with really good, like James Peoples, I think was a top 50 national recruit. Like running back is an issue for Ohio State.
There's a reason why we assume that Ohio State just will figure it out.
Yeah. Edric Houston was a top 100 recruit. Like if you put people into the places that are important to replace, Kenyatta Jackson, Edric Houston, Caden McDonald, like they have dudes everywhere that were really highly rated players. And the one thing that you have to say about Ohio State that you can't say about everyone else is they are still doing the backfilling of their positions in large part with high school players that they've been developing, which I think is an important aspect to this whole thing. So like I think 10-2 is certainly reasonable. 9-3, 8-4, I don't think is going to happen.